And we continue at 106 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Broadcasting live from the Morongo Casino Resort and Spa Living Room Studios. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
John, Dianne Feinstein's funeral is going on in San Francisco. There was also a service last night where friends and family were to attend, including Willie Brown.
Dianne was so good at what she does and so pure that it's my only shot at heaven, her making the case.
That is quintessential Willie Brown, but an odd thing to say at somebody's funeral.
Willie is incredibly sharp at, what is he, 91? Then Biden at 80.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, Willie grew up in a bordello.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was originally from a segregated town in Texas, Mineola, Texas. And his parents knew that Willie was smart from the time Willie was a young man. And they said a segregated town in Texas is no place for someone with smarts and ambition. And they knew that his uncles were in business in San Francisco. They didn't know what kind of business. So they bought Willie a train ticket, and they put him on the train, and they sent him to San Francisco to live with his uncles. What they didn't know was that they were sending him to a brothel.
That's fantastic.
And that's where Willie grew up.
He got a real education.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a deputy district attorney in Los Angeles County. He's also a candidate to replace current district attorney George Gascon. You can get him online at jonathanhatami.com and follow him on Twitter at Jonathan Hatami. Jon Hatami, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
Well, let's talk about this complete insanity that's going on in San Francisco right now, which, of course, is the city and county where George Gascon was the district attorney before he came down here to wreck our county. But in the last 15 months, the city and county of San Francisco has received exactly one conviction for dealing fentanyl. Either it's catch and release and no one actually has to stand trial, or if they do stand trial, the juries acquit all of them because they say, oh, they're sympathetic, they were human trafficked, how could I convict this poor person? And none of the fentanyl dealers in San Francisco, with the exception of one, are being punished. Yet when you hear from Gavin Newsom or you hear from Rob Bonta or you hear from George Gascon, they say the system is working and what we're getting is quote-unquote accountability. Your thoughts?
Well, the system definitely is not working. George Gascon spent 8 years in San Francisco and destroyed San Francisco, and now he's been here for 3 years, and he's already, in the process of destroying Los Angeles. We're the only county in this surrounding area down here that won't prosecute fentanyl dealers who kill children to the fullest extent of the law. And what I mean by that is Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange County, Kern, Fresno, they'll all charge fentanyl dealers who kill children with second-degree murder. We're the only county, Los Angeles, where George Gascon says he refuses to charge fentanyl dealers who kill our children with second-degree murder. So it's really, a tragedy down here that many individuals who lost their children. I have a friend, her name is Perla Mendoza. She lost her child, Eli, to fentanyl poisoning. He was tricked and deceived, and a dealer, poisoned him, then killed him. And you have people like George Gascon who don't want to prosecute those cases. What does it tell all the other drug dealers down here? And you know this, John, all the other drug dealers in Orange County, in Riverside, and San Bernardino, they're going to come to L.A. because they know George Gascon's soft on crime. He's not going to prosecute these fentanyl dealers to the fullest extent of the law. And it's the same thing he did in San Francisco. And it's really, it started off with Prop 47, with the fact that he believes that drug dealers shouldn't be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He believes that putting drug dealers in custody isn't a deterrent. Well, it's totally a deterrent. If you take a drug dealer and put them in prison or jail, then they can't sell drugs anymore. And so obviously that's important. Number two, if you tell a drug dealer you're going to charge them with murder, if they sell somebody fentanyl and kill them, that is a deterrent.
When did criminals become a protected class? And I say that because when you hear Gascon talk about these people who are dealing fentanyl, people who are committing the smash and grabs, Holly Mitchell on the County Board of Supervisors and others, they talk about them like they're the ones who are being victimized by the system. They're being victimized by the conditions in jail, and oh my goodness, we can't put them there. They don't talk about the people who are actually the victims of the crime, the people who are grieving the untimely deaths of their relatives. They don't talk about having sympathy for those people. They only want to talk about having sympathy for the people who are the criminals committing the crimes.
I mean, you're exactly right, John. I just left the funeral of LASD Deputy Ryan Klinkenbrummer. And, you know, the LA Times, when they talk about Ryan, they only talk about the murderer. They talk about the killer and what he went through and why he did what he did. Instead of actually talking about the person who was brutally murdered, they leave out the victim. When you talk about zero bail, it's the same thing. You hear about individuals who are placed in custody, but you don't hear about the individuals who are being victimized, the children who are being abused, the people who are victim of domestic violence or of sex trafficking or of human trafficking. You don't hear about the store owners who are trying to make a living for their family and they're getting attacked with robberies or smash and grab burglaries. You don't hear about the patrons who go to restaurants and get follow home robbery. And so they have left out the victims. They've left out the surviving families. Even when George Gascon took office, he completely abandoned all the families. He decided he wasn't going to charge certain types of enhancements and allegations and crimes. He wanted certain types of cases to remove the allegations and enhancements without even notifying the victims. And, you know, the biggest slap in the face to the victims and their families is the fact that we don't even send prosecutors to parole hearings. We're the only county in California that makes the surviving family members of murdered children have to face their murderer by themselves or face serial rapists by themselves without a prosecutor. And so we have so many leaders who have completely abandoned victims, completely abandoned surviving family members. And, you know, we as a society need to turn this around and take it back and say, stop only talking about the defendant. Stop only talking about the criminal. You need to talk about the person who's being victimized. And what about their rights? What about the rights of all of us? Just individual people in California, in Los Angeles, who are trying to raise families who are scared to wear a watch or walk to the store or go to the beach or walk their children to the school or, you know, go to the supermarket. Why don't we care about the normal, everyday Angelino instead of worrying so much about the individuals who are committing murder, committing rape, and committing other types of crimes?
We're speaking with Jon Hatami, who is a candidate for district attorney running to replace George Gascon. You can find him online at jonathanhatami.com. John, this is the first week we've had no cash bail in Los Angeles County. We've had a laundry list of cities in Los Angeles County come out against this. Their police chiefs, their city councils. People are scared to death as to what's going to happen to crime now that we have there's no more cash bail. George Gascon did a sit-down with Fox 11's Alex Michelson recently where he not only thinks it's a great idea, he thinks it's going to make Los Angeles County much safer. Let's listen.
Look, under the current system before this order by the court, in LA County, and for many years now, if you had a bill of under $50,000, you were being released immediately because there's no jail space, right? If you're convicted of a crime where you're doing your time in a county jail, you're doing about 10% of your time as opposed to doing most of your time. What we have to understand is that when we hold people back that are not dangerous, we're occupying space that does not allow us to hold people that are dangerous. So do we need to continue to work with the courts to make sure people that have open cases, people that are committing residential burglaries are going to be held back 100%? And, you know, we had a representative, my representative at the board here the other day said as much, said we need to make sure those people are held back. But just simply to go back to the old way, I just don't see it.
John, your response.
First off, I'm amazed that George Gascon was a district attorney in San Francisco for 8 years. I'm amazed that he became the DA of Los Angeles. I have no idea what he's talking about. Also, I hate to tell everybody, but he's never prosecuted a case in his entire career. He's never appeared in court in his entire career. People who commit child abuse, who get arrested, there needs to be bail, so they can't get out and hurt somebody else. People who commit domestic violence, there needs to be bail. And when he comes out and says, "Oh, there's not enough room in county jail," well, I wonder why that is. Maybe we need to ask George Gascon why he supported AB 109. Maybe we need to ask George Gascon why he supported Prop 57. Why did he end up allowing a lot of these type of crimes to be people who are held in county jail instead of in state prison? And so, it's really part of what he wants to do. He wants to remove everybody from state prison and put them in county jail. And then he wants to tell everybody that county jail, there's too many people, therefore we need to have zero bail. I don't think there's one person in Los Angeles who thinks people who are committing smash and grab burglaries, follow home robberies, organized retail theft, conspiracy, home burglary should be released on zero bail. And a lot of these crimes, such as human trafficking, sexual battery, child abuse, elder abuse, it says the presumption is you're going to be released, but you have to appear before a magistrate. I don't think the presumption on those type of cases is you should be released. Furthermore, what about repeat offenders? They're putting the onus to look at repeat offenders on the police. So George Gascon's already supported defunding the police. He's already pushed that rhetoric. And now he wants to make the police even be responsible for more things. Now be responsible for looking if somebody's a repeat offender or not. And so, I commend those 12 cities that have filed suit and asked for an injunction. I did hear that Azusa and San Dimas have also joined that lawsuit, and I hope other cities join as well, because I think what happened is a lot of people didn't consider the impact on the victims, the impact on the cities, the impact on innocent individuals who are now going to pay the price and suffer, because what we're doing is arresting individuals who are dangerous. We're arresting individuals who are repeat offenders, and we're just going to release them. And what's going to happen is they're going to commit more crime.
You mentioned that George Gascon was never a courtroom litigator. He was never a deputy district attorney. He was the police chief who was appointed to be district attorney by Gavin Newsom, and then he won a full term from the voters of San Francisco before he moved down here. In that interview, he also said that cash bail is unconstitutional. A caller called in later on in the hour who worked as a police officer who said bail is actually written into the Constitution. It's in the 8th Amendment, saying that government should not impose excessive bail, meaning bail is something that is perfectly legal, perfectly lawful, and in the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. I wonder if he's even read that.
And I don't think he has, and that caller is 100% right. Bail is in the Constitution. Now, you can't have oppressive bail, and I don't think any of us want oppressive bail. If somebody is a first-time offender, it's a low-level crime, you determine that that individual has a job and they're supporting their family, I can understand in saying, hey, that person made a mistake. We don't want to ruin their life. But that, where that determination happens? Before a judge, in court. And so I don't see what's wrong with if people get arrested for committing crimes, within 48 hours they need to appear before a judge, and then the deputy district attorney will be there, the defense attorney will be there, and the judge will be there. And then there could be a determination if this person is safe to be released, if this person is a repeat offender or not, if the victim is scared, if this person is violent and dangerous, if this person hasn't appeared in custody before, if this person, has had a lot of failures to appear. Those type of things all can be hashed out in a courtroom within 48 hours. And so I have a hard time understanding why we need a blanket zero bail policy for certain crimes. And if George Gascon thinks money bail is unconstitutional, why are all the violent crimes money bail? So all the violent crimes are listed as money bail. And so why does he think that that's unconstitutional? What happens is he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He makes no sense. Money bail is the best system we have. It's not perfect. But if we're going to change it, we need to change it into a way that makes our community safer. and makes the justice system better for all of us. Not what we're doing right now, which actually it's going to make it more dangerous, and more people are going to be released, and there's going to be more repeat offenders, and it's actually going to hurt our community.
Part of what we learned from that report that we just played from San Francisco about only one person being convicted of fentanyl dealing was that the juries in San Francisco refused to convict people for dealing fentanyl because they all claim to be human trafficked, and they have sympathy for the person being charged with the crime, and it's essentially jury nullification. The juries just flatly refuse to convict anyone of those crimes because they think the person who's dealing the fentanyl is the real victim, and the people trying to put in jail and the pharmaceutical companies, they're the problems. The same people, obviously, who serve on the juries vote in the elections. If that's what the juries are doing, it should be no surprise that they elected George Gascon and they elected Chesa Boudin. What is the situation right now in Los Angeles County? Are the juries that crazy down here, or are they still sane? Because however the juries act is how the voters are going to act in the next election.
You know, and I can tell you this, John, my experience with jurors in Los Angeles County has been a good one. I think that if you go there and you're honest and you're ethical and you put it all out there, the truth is just the truth. I think the jurors most of the time in Los Angeles get it right and do the right thing. Part of our job is we just have to work hard. You know, the other side pushes a narrative, and many times that narrative is false or is fake, such as, Prop 47, safe schools, safe neighborhoods, and it made our schools less safe, and it made our neighborhoods totally unsafe. And so we need to make sure that we're also pushing that the actual narrative about what these things do. You know, George Gascon and a lot of people who support him, they came out and said, oh, we're trying to turn this back into the war on drugs. And, my response to that is, fentanyl will kill you right away. This isn't a war on drugs. This is a war on all of us. This is a war on our children. And I'm not talking about users. I'm talking about dealers. And so what happens is the other side tries to convince everybody that we're trying to get users. We're not. We're trying to get actual dealers who are actually killing our kids. And fentanyl is a poison. And so I think it's our job to push that narrative as much as we can, to work as hard as we can, to fight back, to push back. But, part of the problem is a lot of our leaders are wimpy. You know that, John. A lot of our leaders are totally wimpy. They won't step up and do the morally right thing. They're always afraid that they're going to lose their job. They're always afraid that, people aren't going to like what they have to say. They don't want to be unpopular. We need more leaders who actually have moral courage to step up and stand up and do the right thing and say the right thing. And it shouldn't matter if you keep your job or not, as long as you're doing the right thing. And so I think more of us need to start pushing back. Need to start saying, if you're dealing fentanyl and you're killing people, you need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. If you're dealing any type of drugs and you're hurting our communities and you're hurting our children, we need to prosecute you. It's illegal. It's not only illegal, it's unsafe. It's not only unsafe, fentanyl is incredibly, incredibly deadly, and I consider it a poison. But it's part of our job just to keep pushing back. And we need to vote in more people who are actually reasonable, normal people who want to fight for all of us, instead of so many of these individuals who appear to be corrupt, appear to only care about their next job, and appear to only care about being popular instead of caring about doing the right thing.
Part of the reason that they don't want to convict anyone of dealing fentanyl is because politically this state has gone very far to the left. And if you're very far to the left, you have sympathy for people who are charged with crimes because they grew up in poverty or they came to this country illegally and they don't have legal status, whatever the case may be. But part of being a left-winger also is typically they're the ones that want to be consumer-friendly. They're the ones that want to make sure that everything is regulated. They're the ones that want to make sure that consumers aren't being ripped off. Well, how about looking at fentanyl like this? The consumers who die and overdose on fentanyl frequently don't even know they're taking it. They think they're buying marijuana. They think they're buying Xanax. They think they're buying Percocet, whatever the case may be. And they have absolutely no idea they're consuming deadly doses of fentanyl, and they're dying because of it. can they please look at it from the point of view of the consumer if they don't care about punishing the criminal?
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% correct. And that is the big difference, is that the dealers are tricking people. They're acting like it's Percocet, but it's really fentanyl. And then they know it's fentanyl, and they know fentanyl is deadly and dangerous, and they're still selling it because it's incredibly addictive and it's very cheap, and they're making a lot of money. And they know that people can die from it. And so that's why we should be able to charge them with second-degree murder. It's like getting into a car knowing that you're totally intoxicated, knowing that if you get in the car and you're intoxicated, that you can kill somebody. The same thing with fentanyl. And so I agree with you, John. I wish people would see it more as these dealers are not only dealing drugs, they're actually dealing a death drug, and they actually know that it can kill somebody, and they actually know that they're tricking individuals who are buying it. Which makes it incredibly deadly, which tells me that you should be able to charge those individuals, if you have the evidence, with second-degree murder, because it does set a deterrent and it does set a good punishment for that, and it takes the drug dealer off the street. So I hope more people hear this, and just like I said, Perla lost her son. She walked into her son's room and he looked like he was sleeping, but he was dead. And I think a lot of parents need to think about that their teenagers, their children, who they love, and somebody poisons them, and they walk into their room, and all of a sudden you've lost that person. And that is incredibly hard to overcome and recover from that. And so those individuals who are killing our kids, if you're a district attorney, you should fight for those moms and fight for those dads. And you need to seriously prosecute these drug dealers who are dealing death to our children with the fullest extent that you can muster. And so I hope more people hear this and go out and talk to these families who have lost children and lost loved ones. It's horrendous. A DA should be fighting for these families and fighting for the children who are the most vulnerable.
Jon Hatami, Deputy District Attorney in Los Angeles County, candidate to replace George Gascon. You can find him online at jonathanhatami.com and follow him on Twitter at Jonathan Hatami. Jon Hatami, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to listen to the podcast edition of this show, that just got easier to do.
That's right. Go to KABC.com, click on podcasts or the Apple Podcast app, iHeart, Spotify, or forget all that and just download the KABC app. You can search for KABC AM on the Apple App Store or the Android Store. Easiest way to listen live. It works with CarPlay, and it's also the easiest way to download podcasts of this show, including, if you missed it, the first hour from today, where we break down just how hard it is to convict a drug dealer in San Francisco, because to this date, they've convicted one.
It's now time to open up the KABC Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, today's edition takes us all the way to Brentwood, but doesn't involve one Orenthal James Simpson.
No, it involves an Airbnb stayer who has been in a Brentwood home for 18 months and is not paying for it.
Wait, is it Cato Kalin?
It's not Cato, who was in the original lineup when 97.1 flipped to talk in 1995. Real radio.
How was he as a talk show host?
Well, let's just say Howard Stern called it Radio Hindenburg.
I think he went to Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. We've produced me and Cato Kalin to the world of LA radio.
Let's get more on this story from KTLA.
A Brentwood homeowner who rented his guest house on Airbnb cannot get rid of the woman living there.
This is why I'm never building an ADU. And this is why if I ever did have a guest house, I would not rent it out.
Do not do that.
Don't become a landlord willingly.
And it's turned into a legal battle, and now the woman is demanding that he pay her to leave. KTLA's Annie Rose Ramos live in Brentwood to try to explain. Annie Rose, good morning.
It's such a doozy, and now she's saying she won't leave for anything less than $100,000. Oh, my goodness. Yes, I'm going to try and explain. We're here.
This reporter's laugh at the beginning. How do you rate this on authenticity?
It's such a doozy. And
Can I give her a negative number?
it's such a doozy. And now she's saying
It's KTLA. They're trying.
she won't leave for anything less than $100,000. Oh, my goodness. Yes, I'm going to try and explain.
So we got a squatter who's also an extortionist.
This is why, and I'm not telling you to break the law. This is why it's always good to have a couple of shady friends. Situations just like this.
We're here in front of said house in Brentwood on Tiger Tail Road. I'll get out of the way.
Is it Mark Thompson's old house?
Could be.
Get out of the way so you can take a better look. If you want to see, there's a white gate on the right-hand side. That's the main house where the owner and his family lives currently. Over on the left side, after this truck goes through, you will see that there's a garage and there's an ADU on.
I didn't realize when I pulled this story, it was the live hit from the morning news. This is going to be rough, people. I try to grab the produced package where you get the whole story and they've already edited out all the nonsense. But in the morning news, they like to do live hits. And live hits have crap like this.
They play up the phony laughter.
Over on the left.
Yes, this is what you get when you listen to morning TV news.
It's such a doozy. And
that's why we go for the action news at 6 o'clock.
Over on the left side.
Could you imagine Ed Laskos being a morning reporter?
No.
Over on the left side, after this truck goes through, you will see that there's a garage and there's an ADU on the other side. That is where the Airbnb guest has been living rent-free for the past year and a half. All right, she's now being called by the homeowner's attorney, the Airbnb guest from hell. Here's more of what he had to say.
In my review of a lot of the emails, at the end of the 6 months, she started coming up with a bunch of reasons not to leave, relocations, a whole bunch of things. And in my view, the whole plan was to extort money from him so that she would leave. So we filed a lawsuit to evict her, the unlawful detainer, and then we filed one for damages for back rent. He's very frustrated.
Yeah, the landlord's not getting that money.
No, he's not getting that money. And just the act of hiring an attorney probably put him another 10 grand in the hole.
You know, the city of L.A. just announced a whole bunch of money to give to people that are back on their rent so they don't get evicted. I wonder if people like this are some of the people that are getting that money.
They should be giving it to the landlords.
You know, he's got a person that's hostile across from him, won't let him in to even see the place, which he has a right to. Our goal is to have her evicted by law. And then our goal is to have a judgment against her that's on paper so that other people of LA will know that people do this.
I think it's pretty well known.
Well, what she will do is she'll go to another unit and do the exact same thing again.
What we have seen, and this has been going on since Airbnb started becoming a thing, if you stay somewhere for over 28 days, you can declare squatters' rights.
Yes, but here's the tricky part. If you have a house in an HOA, one of the things that the HOA typically requires is that you rent it for more than 30 days. Because if you rent it for under 30 days, then it can become one of those vacation rentals, and then you get the loud teenagers.
Okay, here's how it all started. Elizabeth Hirschhorn rented the Airbnb until March 2022, only she never left. According to the LA Times, who obtained the lawsuit, the owner of the house, Sasha Jovanovic, said she could stay for a few more weeks, which she did. And
Mistake number one.
Do not let them stay for free.
No.
Which she did, and then stayed for another year and a half.
She stayed a little bit longer.
Without paying rent, the LA Times reporting the tenant, Elizabeth, is suing, saying the two sides had a long-term lease separate from Airbnb, and then she contacted the city of LA, who said the ADU isn't up to code.
She sounds like a real peach.
And that the homeowner could not evict her until he could prove the unit was up to code. Well, see, he says he wants to make the necessary changes inside the unit, but that the tenant won't let him in. Now, the tenant...
Okay, this woman is an a-hole, but she's kind of figured out a decent loophole here if you want to be this kind of a-hole.
That's right. It's dilapidated. You need to fix it. I just won't let you in to fix it.
Now the tenant, Elizabeth Hirschhorn, is asking for $100,000 in order to get out, and the homeowner, Sasha Jovanovich, is asking for over $60,000 in what she owes in rent. He says he's scared for his safety.
This seems like a case that's perfect for Judy Justice.
Oh, this is the Airbnb version of the War of the Roses.
He says he's scared for his safety living next to this woman. We reached out to her attorney and have yet to hear back. But neighbors, I got to tell you, we've spoken to them this morning, and they are on the owner side. Take a listen.
Yeah, and it's not fair to the other neighbors, too. I mean, it's scary for the other neighbors. Who knows what she sounds very evil to me. She sounds very evil to me.
I don't think it's board worthy, but I like it.
She sounds very evil to me. I'd be scared to live next door. I mean, there's a lot of kids around here.
You know what? I wish this woman lived in Pasadena because this would be perfect. Are you ready, Johnny?
Oh, I know what's coming.
She sounds very evil to me.
Questions?
I'd be scared to live next door.
I'll be back. Get out.
That sounds like it could be in a trailer for one of these Halloween movies.
Well, it is the season.
She sounds very evil to me.
Questions?
I'd be scared to live next door.
I'll be back. Get out.
Coming to a theater near you.
I mean, there's a lot of kids around here. I don't know what kind of person she is to do this. She's not a kind person. Who knows? And he has kids.
All right, you might be wondering where Airbnb comes in all this, because all of this started with a rental listed on their website. Well, they say because the homeowner let the tenant stay for a few more weeks after that lease or rental expired, that they wipe their hands of this entire business. They wipe their hands of any involvement. They say they aren't responsible.
I think I'm in Airbnb's corner on this one.
Well, Airbnb is always looking for a loophole to say, don't blame us. They are the L.A. County Board of Supervisors of internet companies.
But if they facilitated a booking and the booking was for exactly 6 months and then the guy who was hosting decided without any more involvement from Airbnb, I'm going to let her stay for 6 more weeks, that's on him. That is 100% on him.
You know what? You're right. That is on him.
For the first time, I'm here to defend Airbnb.
They've even taken down this rental property on their website, saying that the owner violated their terms of service. And so now this owner is on his own, as is the tenant, who says she's not going anywhere. Basically, this is a big red flag for a lot of folks who rent their rooms or any part of their home to really know the terms and the conditions with which you're using Airbnb or any other website, VRBO, when you're doing and entering into this kind of type of rental. Reporting live from Brentwood, I'll send it back to you both in the studio.
Sounds like continued employment for lawyers with that particular case. Annie Rose, thank you so much for that.
Got to have the show. Got to have a joke there because it's the morning news.
Well, he's not wrong.
Sounds like continued employment for lawyers.
Yeah, that guy's going to be making a mint off of this case.
There are so many people who look at their mother-in-law's quarters or some extra property that they own and they say to themselves, oh, look at what they're charging for Airbnb. I can make a mint with my property on Airbnb or VRBO or any of those vacation rental websites. All it takes is one. All it takes is one tenant like this, and everything that you made is gone. I would not Airbnb a property if my life depended on it. Wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
The person who bought my home when I sold my house spent $1 gazillion to redo it, and they're turning it in to an Airbnb. And when I heard that that's what they were going to do with the house, I thought to myself, should I warn them? And I thought, no, I want my money. But it's definitely going to end in a 911 call. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Here's one from Anki. Randy's absolutely right. I did Airbnb for a while and once had a couple of chicks moving in with a giant bottle of vodka. Red flag. When the couple of days were over, they came up with reasons why they wanted to stay. I contacted Airbnb immediately, and they were on it right away. They stayed on the phone with me till an Uber arrived that whisked them away, probably to the next sucker.
Yeah, all you need to do is come up with some BS excuse that is demonstrably untrue. For example, one of those girls with the vodka, all they had to do was say that the other girl knocked her up and she's now pregnant. See, programming note, looks like I'm going to be on CNN Max, which is the version of CNN they put on their website over at CNN.com at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Will you get more than 2 words this time?
Probably not. We've got one more hour coming up on the John Phillips Show right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.